Hello and welcome into Limited Time Only, brought to you by Sorare Data. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined today by NepentheZ, who you can find as NepentheZ pretty much everywhere. Nep, I think you have become the poster boy for collections, or at least pushing everybody to make collections. And I asked you the other day, actually, if you thought collections were more, I don't know if it was more important than stacks or what the question actually was, but it was about that. And we started talking about it, and it was like, wait a minute, we should clearly just talk about this in front of lots of other people. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome. That intro music's really nice, isn't it? It makes me feel like some really old guy with a grainy camera and glasses are going to come on and be like, so today we're going to be looking at phosphorus animals. Like it's just got that whole 1970s vibe, but I like it. Yeah.
Are you a 70s child?
No, 80s.
Oh, okay, me too.
Yeah.
Good. Just made it. Anyway. So the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I feel like there are a lot of people who are making collections for specific cards. Like I've done this. I'm buying cards to increase. I'm buying cards I never wanted to make cards that I do want and that I have better in the game. But it does seem like there are some people who are going for these full collections, and then they're not really sure if they want to play all 5 cards together or 3 of them together, or what the plan is, other than I'm just going to get to 5%. And you have a few collections so far. Some of them are literally still being built. In fact, somebody was commenting on, actually it was the Feyenoord one.
Yeah.
How you were bidding on the Gernot Trauner, and you're like, there's no way I'm going higher than this. And then I see an hour later it's in your gallery. So
but the hilarious thing about that actually though is that I have a viewer that has the one of that offered me the one of for less than what I paid on auction, but because I don't have ETH in my wallet and I'm buying off of card, I didn't have it. But also the discrepancy of points after 90 days is actually only 10 from a one of
from a
manager
owner
versus a first owner. So it's not really that deep.
That's fair. That's fair. But looking at your current collections, you're on John Buck, Portland Timbers, and Urawa are the 3 that I think you're focusing the most on. First off, how did you decide to start with those 3, or at least focus on those 3?
I told you after the show last time we talked about this, maybe 2 weeks ago, that Jean Buck Motors' sole intention, which I think I'm safe to say now because I don't think people can beat my XP. So if they have the same team, they can't beat me anyway, is that I am going to win Academy in 388 with the Jean Buck Motor stack. There's a real number of limited games. A lot of the teams don't have the ability to get 5% collection bonus on them, and some of the teams won't get their scores in before the end of the game week. So the Jean Buck Motors have a massive advantage in that regard. If somebody else is doing that as well, then I'm bollocks. But what's been really interesting is how many people are doing it. And, I think I was ahead of the curve when I started building into these 5% and whatnot. But when you talk about it on stream, it only takes a handful of people to also get involved, not even with the same club. And now all of a sudden it's instead of just me having a 5% Jean Buck stack for this midweek, if somebody has gone and got the Argentinius Juniors stack or something, it's now all of a sudden there's way more competition and it's a struggle. Yeah.
It is I'm always hesitant to talk about things that I want to do because I don't want anybody else thinking it's a good idea, whether it is or not. Obviously every time we try to get cards, we want to pay the lowest possible price. And if there's even one other person who wants what you want, you're not going to get the lowest possible price. And so that's why I'm always hesitant to talk about stuff, even though everything's out in the open. You can't hide transactions. So if people want to know what you're doing, they'll see what you're doing. But it's funny. I feel like there's always a conversation about, should I buy this card for this game week? And it's always the upcoming one. Oh man, I'm short a defender. Should I just go buy one? But you literally bought 26 limited cards for one game week.
Yeah.
And it's
Not necessarily like that. That was like the overarching thing that caused that. But when I started looking into it more and then explaining it more, hence the reason why a lot of people I think kind of started doing it as well, is that especially with limited full collections, unless you're going for like the absolute top teams, I paid like £180 for this. So let's say in theory, if I do even podium academy, it
Mhm.
pays for the entire team,
Yeah.
just one game week. Outside of that, I've already hit a $5 academy threshold with them, and I hit a reward with them this week. But the guy was only worth like $3. And the other thing that I started thinking about with especially America's and Asia's cards is if you win that division, you more than likely have enough points to win academy or at least podium in any particular game week. And the hundreds of dollars of ETH is always worth more than the ETH and card reward that you get in the Americas and Asia's tournament. So, although on the flip side, if you don't win the division, a tier one is better than the $5 that you'd get from Academy. It's like trying to weigh up, like, if you're actually building to win, you should probably be putting it in Academy anyway, if you genuinely think you're going to win.
For sure, for sure. And I feel like that actually goes into, I forget which one you were talking about, but you were discussing on about having like multiple stacks, and you were like, if one has a really good game week one week, then I play that one in whatever competition it is, and then the other one goes into the academy. And I think a lot of people listen to that and they're like, man, that seems like such a waste. But actually, the academy, I mean, $500 for first place, and obviously we all want to win first place, but like
Yeah.
most lineups in the academy are not going to win first
Yeah.
place. They're not even going to get the top 500, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so having multiple of these stacks just makes some sense in the fact that it's almost like you have another all-star or whatever to put in. Like it's legitimately another competition that you can play your cards.
Yeah.
And we definitely don't see a lot of people prioritizing it. Like, I guess that's the way it is. Like, you're actually prioritizing the academy. And I feel like that's a strategy that people have overlooked forever. That you kind of want to go where people don't put their best lineups, because then
Yeah.
you're competing against ones that are not as optimal, and you're just plowing in 5% John Buck.
Yeah. But like, so the other interesting thing about playing in the academy, that again, I'm going to say now, and I'm going to regret it in 10 days' time when everybody's like, that's actually genius. Not genius. I mean, playing for XP, but one of the reasons why, like I said to you before about having my like final players on like 13 or 14% when the new season starts, is because the XP growth is so much more powerful in academy when it's a playing team, because you're doubling everything. And so those first sort of like 7, 8, 9 levels, you just burn through like crazy, which then gives you an advantage in the other tournaments when you play them in the proper tournaments, because everybody that's already been playing their team in the proper tournaments, you can just outgrow the XP compared to them
Yeah.
by grinding through the academy. So it's like, it's having that balance in acting, which is why the aim for me is to have like maybe like 15 limited full collections to run through all the actual divisions, all the cap modes, and into academy. And if I see that, for example, Arsenal are at home to Luton in like 8 weeks' time, I'd actually probably like farm the academy with those Arsenal players for 8 weeks to try and grow their XP, so that when they play Luton and I put them in All Star Limited, I've got a humongous XP bonus compared to other people.
Yeah, sorry. I was also looking as you were talking, like the podium payouts for academy are actually higher than All-Star Limited and any of the regionals.
Yeah.
So it's like, it almost, if you have a stack that you think can win All-Star, and obviously you get the card as well. So like whatever the card value is for winning All-Star plus I think it's $350, like, is a lot. But I never really thought about the XP, like the enhanced XP growth by running like a very high scoring lineup. Man.
And that's why, and so like what I think is, and what I feel is over the course of a season, and this is why like I'm going to give a whole season for this strategy at both limited and rare level, in spite of what the entry cost is for it and how much how inefficient it might be looking back at the end of the season, but is because I think if you've got, even if you've got 2 or 3 full collections or just 5% or 3%, whatever it may be, whatever your budget allows, playing them smartly through the limited divisions that they're eligible for and then the capped mode as well. I just think, like, let's say Arsenal are playing Manchester United. Okay, are never going to win anything, but it might still get enough points to get a fiver from academy and get a huge XP boost during that game week. So I'll put it in there with a tough matchup. On the flip side, if they're playing a really easy game, I also might then put them in the academy as well, because that $500 would supersede Challenger Europe or Champion Europe. Maybe not All Star Limited, but definitely the regional competition. But when you're like, what the idea is when you have so many stacks for full collections, the amount of pieces that you can actually put everywhere. It's like I could put a full Arsenal team into academy and still put 4 of the Arsenal players into All Star Limited because there's 11 players on the field, right? I have them all. So it's not like I'm not playing the lineup there, especially with teams like, I don't know, if you do go for like a big team, like a Barcelona or a Real Madrid, everyone can score 100 points in those teams. So trying to guess the permutation of who will, okay, you can certainly like isolate certain players that might be better than others because of set pieces or penalties or things like that. But, you know, David Alaba has as much chance as Camavinga of hitting 80, 90 points. So you separate those two, put them both in one division each, and then just run the odds effectively. In theory, anyway.
Yeah. So does this, obviously the maximizing the number of points you score in the academy generally means you're playing like the 5-player stacks.
Yeah.
But that doesn't allow you to, like, it seems like you're not ignoring, but if you wanted to boost the XP of cards you already own that are not these, like if you have a rare or a super rare of a card that you really want to move up, do you think that having these full stacks and collections is actually going to keep you from basically punting a lineup in academy just so you could get your whatever card it is, your Davidson rare, to get more XP because it'll get a ton, get double plus like 4 John Buckeyes? Like, do you think that keeps you from basically only like super training your limited cards?
Yeah, so I think the idea in my head, I did build a spreadsheet for it and kind of like had a rough idea in my head of like how long it would take to get to certain levels.
Yep.
And especially when it comes to once the season bonus disappears, because like here's the before I get to where I'm going with this point, here's like one of the trade-offs is you buy now and train them hard so that you can compete with the guys that have the season bonus next season, or you wait till next season and then first of all, not only do you probably overpay massively because everybody wants a season bonus, but also they're the first edition, so transferred cards are going to be there that you're not going to have, like Declan Rice and Havertz Arsenal cards. Those first ones are just going to go for crazy prices.
Yeah, for sure.
So the trade-off of like buying now at a reasonable price but not having the 5% season bonus as soon as that first mint comes through versus overpaying in like 8 weeks, but also even possibly having to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for a card to get minted and get that full collection bonus is there. Which is why when it comes to the actual training side of things, like I deleted all of the stuff that I had with regards to actually projecting XP on the final players that I had. But I think by time, I think it's gonna be before the new year. By the time I get them to the point where they're like level 14 or 15, and after that, the reason why I don't care to like farm them in academy like the Davidson or whatever to get him up there is because my process has been once they hit level 17, I buy the 3 levels above for those key cards. So I don't like the discrepancy of XP from level 17 when you hit it and can buy it is 15,000 XP to get up to level 17. You need another like 9,500 XP just for those 3 levels. So it's
It's a
like
crazy amount.
it's 40% of the XP needed for the whole thing in just those 3 levels,
Yeah.
which means by like getting to level 17, it just isn't difficult. It's just not difficult, especially if you're playing them in good lineups that score well,
Yeah.
and then sometimes in academy. I don't think it's going to be worth focusing someone for a few weeks from like level like because like level 14 is really easy at 8800 XP, but that level 14 to level 17, that saw like 7000 XP there. It might be worth focusing them, and especially in like those anomaly game weeks where it's like I haven't got a lot going on this week. I can't even like field a full lineup. Like there's a few game weeks coming up like 394 and 392 where I haven't got a goalkeeper for anything. So on those situations, it's like right, all these outfielders that I have got, let's put a DMP line or like a DMP goalkeeper in All Star Rare and All Star Rare Pro with some outfielders, and then the guys that I want to farm their XP, let's go and put everybody else in there with them to grow those points for them. So there'll be game weeks where you can focus the XP growth on them where it doesn't really hurt them from not being in another tournament.
I have to say that you have absolutely like blown my mind when it comes to XP and collection. No. Like we all knew it was important, and we all knew like it as the longer you have your cards, like they'll get to level 20 eventually. Like all of the cards that I have on level 20 are ones I bought like the first year I was on the platform. Like I've been here a while. Like it takes a long time. And I brought this up to you a few weeks ago, and I was like, you're buying a lot of like end of season cards. They're not going to be able to compete with the new seasons. And you were like, no. This is the plan.
Yeah.
And I just sat there and I was like, shit, he is absolutely right. Like it's not, I think what a lot of people this time of year, like this has always been the worst time of year to buy cards, regardless of price. But because for all the European cards, or most of them, you have no utility over the summer. And then you have maybe a month of the new season with the 5% bonus, and then you lose it. And now you're trailing all these other cards that are immediately 5%. And I think most people overlook the fact that it takes a while for cards to get minted, that you're not going to get the first 100 limiteds or the first 10 rares like immediately. And so you're not really competing with that many of those cards. But like the work that you've done to like show how quickly you can move up has like it has literally changed the way that I think of it. Curiously, how many Sorare coins do you have right now?
Like 1,000, I think. Yeah, 1,730. Because of the cooldown, it's 3 days cooldown on buying the rare upgrade. So every time I've got enough to buy it, I just buy it straight away so that I'm not like, oh, I can do this guy 3 times, try and buy it 3 times, and then realize I have to wait 3 days to get a second version. So yeah, I just buy them as I've got enough coins to buy them.
So you just blow through them?
Yeah. And it might be the wrong way to play. And I'm willing to accept that I might be looking back in 6 months when they've done something incredible with the store and everybody else is benefiting massively. And I'm like, that didn't work. But I would hate it more if I thought of this and it did have a good impact for 6 months. And I look back and think, why didn't I do that? What difference would it have made? Which is why I'm just committing to it. And as I said last time we spoke, and when I was speaking to Sean on the podcast last week or the week before, I'm just ready to accept whatever happens here. Like you was talking the other day about when is a good strategy bad, or when is a strategy bad in general. And I do think that you kind of have to give a strategy time. And there does have to be like a line in the sand and a cutoff, but there's like a meme, a gambling meme of a guy like digging for diamonds and the walls like stick thin between where he's digging and the diamonds, and he's kind of like walking off being like, oh god, nothing there this time. And it's like, just dig for one more day, you got the jackpot. And I've kind of set my own limits as the European season. At the end of it, I'll know. And I think one thing that you talked about with Sean, which I think is very valid, is that a bad strategy isn't necessarily a bad strategy, depending on what you want out of it. Like if you spend, 2 ETH on a team and it yields you 0.02 ETH, the entire season, but those cards are worth 2.5 ETH at the end of it, well, that's still success, right? Because you didn't lose. It might not be as much success as you wanted. There might have been a different strategy that would have yielded more success, but you still success. You still had success. I think the only time that it's like a bad, it genuinely goes bad, is if you've realized any loss within that strategy. At that point, it's like, okay, this failed. But then the argument of like, if you just kept going, would you eventually have been in a point of profit? And would it have been worth it to maintain that until you became profitable versus diverting strategy to try and succeed somewhere else effectively?
Yeah, I think the biggest like issue that I've always said is that there's just not enough time to know if a strategy didn't work, because it theoretically should take thousands of game weeks for you to like really know if it works, and we just don't have those. Like, we'll never have enough. And so I don't know. I'm sitting on 78,000 Sorare coins.
That's wild.
And what's funny is realistically, I'm sitting on them so that I could get some like random jersey sent to my house.
Yeah.
Like, we know that's the only thing that has been available.
Yeah.
So far, I didn't even try to get one, but it's like I hold on to them for the hope that there's something I haven't thought of that will end up in the store that I'll be like, oh, that's worth it. But I also have all these cards that I wish had more XP, and that there's a very clear path to me to just use coins to do that.
Yeah. I think what KB97 says there, I took that on board when you and Sean talked about this last week when you brought it up. Like, the maximum amount of points that you can get from an absolute max score with the collection bonus is 25 points. And it does, like, you can certainly like micromanage. Okay, I gained 7 extra points this game week. It bumped me up like 25 places. The differential price of the reward was $6, so you can attribute that to the collection or whatever. But it's not for me personally, it's not about that per se, because it's like, if you hit 5 100s anyway, you're winning the division, even if you have 0 XP on those players, basically.
Sure.
Like, so that regard doesn't really matter. It's more about the fact that this is a game, and so we're playing, like, you want to maximize your potential to play the game the best, and this is an added bonus. And I love the people that are like, I don't need XP, because I'm like, you're going to be the guy that is in 4th place, and you're going to be 13 points away from 1st, and you're going to be like, if only I had collection bonus. There's where the difference will pay off in an instant, because that difference of the podium ETH, the star card, it will be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And it will cover all of those $5, $10, $12 players that you bought to get the 5% XP.
Do you think those people will actually blame the XP though?
No, you could obviously say like, oh, if only Hulk didn't get sent off after the game,
right,
like, I would have won. Yeah, there's loads of different reasons, but you're giving yourself the best chance. And I think that's where people aren't appreciating how valuable XP is, even if it is only 5%. Because they haven't had an experience yet where it has been valuable. And it will only take that, in my opinion, that one chance of it being valuable before they get on board. And the thing that I get, as we talked about the very first time when I came on to talk about collections, is that if the longer you wait, the harder it is, because other people aren't waiting, which means you don't have a chance to buy those cards. And all for me personally already as well, I've got 3 cards that I bought for like $5, $8 maybe, for collection points, that have now got favorable transfers that I've been offered 40 or 50 pounds for each of them. And it's like, there's another side of it where it's like, buying all of these deadbeats for collection bonus, as I said when we talked about it, there is no downside, literally none. They can't, you couldn't, you will sell them for what you bought them for because they're so cheap, and somebody will buy it for their collection for that price. The only thing you have is upside.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, every card has value now, because at some point somebody's building a collection.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, if anybody is building a 2021 Granada collection, rare collection, hit me up. because I've got a Luis Maximiano with your name written all over it. But anyway, I think the XP thing that people seem to ignore that you definitely don't is the point of the game is to maximize the points out of your cards. And you can't make your players get another tackle or get another shot on target, but you can make each tackle and each shot on target more valuable in the game.
Worth more, yeah.
Yeah, just straight up worth more.
Yeah. And then with that as well, you know, when they released the collection bonus, they said that this is just the start. And again, it's like if they introduce something else that has an impact with maybe collecting coins, you know, it's like, okay, now I've benefited massively because I'm ahead of the curve. Maybe they do nothing and it takes me a long time to recoup this investment and it was a failed experiment. But maybe they do something that you, as you said, like you can't think of or haven't thought of what they could do that would make you think this would be worth spending the coins on or whatever. But like somebody asked a question, somebody posed that in my stream a few days ago, that exact same like thought. And I said 2 months ago, nobody thought collection bonus was going to be here and that all these deadbeat cards would have value and these one of nobodies would have value. Yet here we are, and it made a massive impact to the game. Who's to say what comes in a few weeks' time before the Premier League campaign kicks off again, where they do something? You know, maybe they introduce a new tournament that only collection bonus scores as bonus points. Now all of a sudden, I'm entering all of those tournaments because I've got an advantage on everybody else. Maybe they don't, but if they do, I want to make sure I'm ahead of the game on that one.
It did seem like the collection bonus percentages in the cap, at least in 240 and 220, or maybe just 240. Like, I think that's the one that everybody expects because they were like, they kind of hinted at it. And I mean, obviously that helps everybody who is collecting at least. I don't think that coins for collections is out of the question either. I'm waiting for the point basically where you get all of your coins back, basically. The ones that you spent, you just get them from the collection side instead of the playing side.
Would be nice, yeah.
Yeah. So do you find yourself, I guess you technically have had the situation already because you have like John Buck and Portland are playing, and we're all playing now. Do you find that you are forcing yourself to play like 5 players from the same team in these academy lineups, or are you willing to kind of mix and match?
Yeah, I've been, well, this week has been a nightmare because the Portland game got called off at halftime for weather issues and it's not going to be played out. But my Champion America Limited has 3 Portland players and then Armani and Vela. My Cap 220 Limited obviously doesn't benefit from XP, has 4 Portland players. And funnily enough, it was the guys that were a bit of a risk to start with, the goalkeeper that I expected not to play. And then the Timbers rotated their goalkeepers. So everyone started playing. And I was like, this is brilliant. Like in Cap 220, these guys weren't expected to start. Like, this is going to be amazing. And then the game got called off. So it wasn't. Cap 240 Limited, I had 1 of them in. And then All-Star Limited, I had 1 of them in. And then in the Academy, I had the full setup. And 4 of them didn't play because of the rotation this week. So even though they didn't play, it was still kind of like, I don't mind it when a lineup all dies together. I'm like, this is okay, right? Like, if 2 guys score 100 and 3 guys score nothing, I'm pissed. But when everybody doesn't score, it's like, it's perfect. No harm, right? It just doesn't matter at all.
Exactly.
But I think the aim over time, because I've already got I've only had these Portland guys for a couple of game weeks. In terms of actually being able to put them into a team, this is only the 2nd game week. So the XP isn't like grand on them, but it's already into that like 3% range. So because I bought these now, and I actually think halfway through the season is a good like mitigating point to start picking up your collection, because you get that 5% season bonus for a long time. And then, like, for example, the Arsenal players in the internationals, like Smith Rowe plays tonight at 5 o'clock. I've got huge XP on him. Even though the Premier League season hasn't started yet, I still get the benefits of that. And then the players are cheap enough because nobody's like desperate to get them for collections anymore. And then you get a long period enough of time to grow their XP so that losing the 5% season bonus isn't as painful. I think like buying this Portland stack is been the best time, because we've got like 4.5 months left of MLS football. That's a great amount of time to farm that back. And again, who knows where the market will be where these players will be, what their values will be come the end of the season. Like it's nice to have lots of options. And what I anticipate is that over time, as I gather more collections, because I spoke about before, like the idea is to snowball these. So every time a collection pays itself off, I go and buy another one with that revenue. The idea is like in 12 or 18 months to have so many collections at 5%, but I don't actually think about picking them as a 5-man team anymore. I just pick the best players from all of these collections that I've got to build out my lineups in the same way that we do now, just with a 5% bonus instead.
Okay, so that leads me literally to my next kind of topic. If you're starting, because you basically want to have as many 5% options as possible.
Yeah.
And at that point, you don't necessarily have to play the stacks. But if you are starting now, let's say you're buying 20 cards. Would you rather have 4 5-man stacks or 20 cards within a single collection? I think that's where people who are jumping in, they're just like, no, I totally get the collection bonus, and stacking, obviously getting 5 players from the same team is beginning you on the road to to a higher collection bonus. But once you get that 5, and I'm just using, we all kind of know you should have more than 5 just for, specific competition or whatnot. But like, should you branch out before you build up to 5%?
It's different per person. I think it depends on your budget, your expectations. Like, I know Sean was talking about it on the show a couple of days ago. Like 3% is really obtainable, and everyone, it's easy to get to that 3%. Maybe even by accident, you don't have to go out and buy every single player. Like if you want a PSG player at 5%, like the cost of that is going to be quite large. Whereas getting to 3%, you could just go and buy those deadbeat cards and never play, and then all of a sudden you got 3%. And that is fair. I honestly don't think there's a right or wrong. The one thing that I like for buying a full collection of the same team that I think will be massively beneficial to people that are limited players and new to the game is that you will never have a game week where one player, one position in SO5 is missing. And I think just for the enjoyment of the actual game, I think that's a real positive influence on how people experience Sorare. Having I've got 3 insane players for this game week, but I don't have a goalkeeper or a defender. And then they're more likely to make the error of buying a player they don't want, buying the player for a game week, his price being inflated because of that, being worthless a few days later where they trade it off to Pavel for a fraction of the price. I just think it genuinely enhances the experience of playing Sorare.
I completely agree on that. But the one that gets me is at some point you get a player who, I'm trying to use my own example without actually using my own example. So I've been collecting Midtjylland cards in rare, and I have a few limiteds, and it was like, maybe I should just plow through all the, build up a 5% limited collection. But where we are now in the time of year, the transfer window, they're going to bring players in, and whoever they bring in will not have cards that help my collection bonus. So do I actually weaken my stack by not getting these good players on, with other cards, or do I just pick them up and hope for the best?
Yeah, and that's tricky. And so, interestingly, Chogu Sung from Jean-Book Motors is heavily linked to Midtjylland. And so, on the flip side of that, I now have a player that's going to a really high scoring league as a striker with a humongous bonus. That for me is a big win. Or if you only have a Jean-Book stack, that's probably not a win for you, because if your Jean-Book players are playing on a Wednesday and Midtjylland are playing on a Saturday, you're kind of screwed. But this is where, again, I think the collection bonus has a massive value long term, is because even though Chogu Song leaves, first of all, maybe his price goes up because him to Midtjylland is great, so you could sell him. That's great. Also,
it has moved up. There's no.
It has it? Okay. Yeah. So otherwise, the guy that kept getting those sub minutes, the Gustavo, all of a sudden he becomes the first choice striker. Now you've got another guy there whose price also probably moves up because he becomes the first choice player. And so now you've had 2 positive kind of interactions with the prices of players, it might have hurt your SO5 team. And that's where you as a manager have to decide, do I want to run Gustavo now, sell Cho Gusong, and take that as a part of the profit? You'd probably still have 5%. And one of the things for me that I think people are overlooking as well with how much I've spent on certain players and how much XP they're giving me is that once 90 days has completed, I can actually then start to sell off the pieces of the stack that don't offer me a bonus anymore and recoup money back that way to just maintain at that 750 points. And a lot of people hadn't factored that in and just thought that I'd hold on to the stack forever. And what I get as a benefit then is I've had the 5% bonus from them the whole time. And I then get the benefit of all of the collectors of that stack fighting for my card because there aren't many listed.
Damn it, that's so smart.
But I know I realized I didn't answer your question there either. But
I don't think there's necessarily a specific answer to it. But
yeah, I think the transfers in and out is part of the game that you've got to play when you're weighing up who to buy as a collection.
For sure. And theoretically, the safest way to do it is to buy cards in September, October, because like theoretically you have them all season. But that we go back to the same thing. You're probably certainly now you're paying way more for auctions because everybody wants the first owner. Certainly the one-ofs or the low jersey mints, people want those. I don't know. Well, I know why this lineup popped up to me. This was Quinny's lineup in game week 298. We all know Quinny is a huge Celtic stacker. So he had 4 Celtic cards, technically 5 Celtic cards, but only 4 in Celtic shirts. And he won a Kyogo Celtic card with this lineup. So it just like came right in. But this is not exactly what I'm dealing with, but like similarly with a Midtjylland stack, like they bring someone in, I'm going to have a lineup that looks like this. And also, if anyone from Sorare is watching, the fact that the 4 Celtic cards here cannot be in the same collection drives me insane just because they're different scarcities. So I also hope that like team collections come in. But anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry. That's all I was saying. Team collections.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah, I think vertical collections, and this is where it gets like what they don't want to do is put so much emphasis on extra bonuses that you're getting like 50-60% per player, right?
Yep.
Because I think that's terrible for the game. However, at the same time, like you could certainly create a world where you can have multiple different styles of collection, and much like how it only gives one player in the collection bonus if you have 2 of the same player from the same collection, it can just draw from the top collection. So if you're collecting multiple scarcities and seasons of Celtic cards, and that puts you to the 5%, and then you also have a 2022 Celtic team, and that gives you 5% or like 4%, you only draw from whatever the best option is rather than getting all of them compounding. That I think that would open up again more possibilities for like rewards being really cool, or people just not being like trapped in this whole like today, like as we talked about before, right? This guy had a one-of or a jersey mint of a card that I really want for £20. I offered him £14, which I think is fair and more than I'm really willing to pay anyway for a jersey mint or a one-of. He rejected me, cancelled it, and listed it up for £30. And it's like, I wasn't even willing to pay what you already had it at. Yeah. And if instead I could have gone and bought last season's card or the season before's card or next season's card to contribute to my collection score, it would stop this like hostage situation with cards where people just think they have crazy power over the few points that they do actually give. Because as an individual, a card doesn't mean that much. It's just it literally is the collection bonus that means a lot. So when you own one card, you don't really have a lot of power because there's other options.
Right. What do you think about this question from Ben? If there should be an incentive to get every player in the collection? Because it does seem like it's not that it's not fair, but sometimes it's not fair because like some clubs have like the like Midtjylland last year has 42 cards. And I have another Minnesota collection that is 30. And so it's like, I don't know. I don't know how I
Yeah, you
feel
get
about
the
it.
same bonus even though you've got way more cards.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you want to
Yeah, I mean,
complete your Arsenal collection because it's Arsenal.
right. So, and
But
so here, how about this as a benefit for collecting all of the cards? Have the XP percentage collection bonus for points, and then have a secondary collection bonus line that multiplies your coins, and that is exponential based on however many cards in a full collection gets you like 10% bonus coins.
Haber said he thinks if you can get every single jersey mint in a collection, you should get an experience reward. I'm cool with that.
Here's the problem though. If I have every jersey mint, let's say you'll never walk alone, right? He's got every jersey mint of Liverpool, and he gets an experience, and he just gives them to you. Do you get the experience too? How do you monitor who's had an experience? What card has been valued towards an experience? What happens if he gets the experience and then sells off half of the collection?
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's a one-time deal, and yeah, you collect it, you get your experience, and then you can sell off. Yeah, that's fine.
But then what about somebody else that wants that experience as well? They're never going to be able to get it because it's been had.
Never. No.
Which means I don't think that would work. Logistically, I think that would be incredibly difficult anyway to monitor from hundreds of clubs over multiple seasons and scarcities. For them to monitor, I think would be a bit of a nightmare.
I think realistically, you're only thinking of a handful of people who would be able to do it anyway.
Yeah, maybe.
And you're probably spending more than the experience is worth.
Yeah, probably, almost definitely, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So the one thing, so the biggest like kickback's not the right word. The biggest like negative reaction I had when they announced the collection scores is it felt like we were moving away from having what players did on the pitch determine who wins. And so like the idea was I should have the best scoring cards and that will let me win. And now it's like I need to have the best scoring cards and a bunch of their clown teammates because then I get more points on top of that. And I'm over that now. But I do really like your idea of now basically rewarding or some sort of like coin bonus for when you
perfect,
because that doesn't feel I don't feel like I'm losing out on something that didn't happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't agree that I don't like the analogy of like the best players to get the best scores to win rewards because the best players don't really ever get the best scores. Like the 100 points Messi gets is the exact same 100 points that Jesus Ferreira for the United against St. Kitts Nevis gets, and then not the same performances. And so we were never in a world where just having the best players was the best way to win. It was having the best in-game performers. And because this is a game, the XP has just changed that narrative a little bit. But the overarching like understanding of the more points you score, the better you'll do still exists.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Like I said, I'm over it by now. How many? So, so you didn't really answer the question. So right now you have 3 collections, limited collections that you're working on.
Yeah.
For your do you think that the next one? That's right. John Bach's already there, right? So
yeah, like and Portland as well, 5%.
Right. So do you find that you will like finish Urawa before you start another? And if you start another, are you starting that one and then get to 5, or do you think you'll get, 3 stacks and just work on them all at the same time? Like, what do you think your plan is?
I don't deal well with like, that meme where that like dog sitting in a lot of fire with a cup and it's like, this is fine.
This is fine.
I don't deal well with like noise, like internal noise. And at this moment in time, like one of the community members in my Discord today was like, oh, they've added like game weeks on lineup builder to like 395, whatever it is. And I clicked on 395 and I was so overwhelmed by the options. I just turned it off again. I just clicked off. I was like, I cannot deal with this. Like, I actually need like some kind of strategy or some kind of formula to understand who's important, who's not, who's going where. And then I was like, and even then, like Xhaka's listed as like an Arsenal player at the moment, and I just know he's leaving. So
Yeah,
until
yeah.
that transfer has happened, I can't really even plug these in. And it's the same with the stacks. Like until I've finished the Reds collection, I like if I start on another collection now, I will just completely forget that the Reds exist, and I'll never get them to 5%. So I have to build like one at a time. Also, I'm happy with the fact that I've got an MLS stack and 2 Asia stacks. I would like to get another MLS team, and I would like to get ideally 10 or 15, like a couple of Champion Europes, a couple of Challenge Europes. I definitely want one full collection for each of the top 5 leagues for the pro divisions. To try and farm the rewards in that really easy tournament there. But at the same time, because and I'm not saying that I was the catalyst of this, but because at least since I've been getting engaged in it, I'm noticing more and more people are. The price of even like limited cards that are worthless have gone from like 30p or 50p on auction with one guy bidding or 2 guys bidding to like £2 and £2.20s and stuff. And it's like this is too much. You're like you're adding so much excess on top that you actually going back to a strategy of just buying the best players and not having a bonus is probably more valuable long term than overpaying massively for these cards that are nobodies.
And you find that particularly just on auctions, though?
Yeah.
Or is it secondary as well?
Yeah, no, secondary market is a lot better. But obviously then you have to wait the 90 days and everyone's impatient. So that's a terrible rule.
I will say that there are times where it feels like Sorare moves really fast. And the countdown from 90 days feels like 900 days.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I bought cards months ago and I have like 71 days left. And I'm like, that's not possible. My kids were newborns when I bought these cards and they're 12 and 10 now. Like there's no way. It is the absolute
I agree.
Oh. Or I have some that will be 90 days like in September. And I'm like, but that's 4 game weeks where they're not 90 days. So I just have to buy more cards now. The idea of selling cards. So this Midtjylland collection that I have, not to talk about rares on a limited show, but that's the one I have, although the limited one is coming. Like it's currently 2% and it will be 3% when the cards hit 90 days, which is in like 77
like 2 seasons away or something. Like
yeah. Exactly how it feels. But there is definitely a thought of like, maybe I'll just buy 10 more right now and just so it's 3% to start. I literally never thought of the idea of selling them after 90 days.
Yeah. And then now again, that's another secret out of the box that I'm gonna be pained on in another 90 days, aren't I?
Crash the John Buck market in 48 days when he can finally
unless they introduce something where having the full collection also gives a benefit, right? And then then you keep them.
Yeah, I don't know. What is or do you think that your rare collections will affect which limited collections you'll go after, or will you do the opposite?
This is one thing that I've been like interested with. I don't know is the answer, like, because when I showed you that guy, Sorare America, and he's a great guy. I actually sold him my first ever Super Rare reward about like 8 months ago. And we had some conversations then and watched his streams, unable to understand what he's actually saying, but knowing fully well everything that he's saying, and I just love seeing like, the same sort of like 8 players win and win and win. And I really like the idea of it, like, I like the idea of having the 2022 and 2023 Arsenal limited and rare collections, some super rare sprinkled in there. And when we do play Luton at home or Nottingham Forest at home, just running as many Arsenal players as I can in every single division. And if they pop, I win everything.
Sure.
Like, And then obviously if they don't, I'm like, why didn't I just use Hill there, man? Like obviously he was gonna get, But if they do pop, not even if they do, every team, and this is one thing that I like for collections and for limiteds and for any fan for any team that's licensed on So Rare. Every team has a game a season where they just pound the opponent, and that's all it takes to win until everybody has a team at full collection, and then you're like instead of like when that guy with the Houston stack won, he won because nobody else stacked any team.
Yeah.
But if everybody's stacking a full 5% collection, you need not only your team to slay, but to then also outperform all the other teams at slay of all the other people that have got all the other collections, and that's really difficult. So I don't know, like it's like I feel like this again lends into why I feel like getting involved as soon as possible is the best play, because having that XP advantage is like in every manner is just going to be more valuable, because we can have the same collection, but if I'm at 20, level 20 already and you're at level 16, I just win. That's it.
Right. I mean, we saw that previously with YNWA. Whenever Liverpool goes off, like he wins everything.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So it makes sense in that respect. I get the ease of basically making like rainbow collections. Like if I have a Midtjylland rare collection, I should just have a limited one. And if they go off, although from what I've learned over the last few weeks, there are way too many Midtjylland collectors out there that I may have to find another team. But I don't know. It's like I gave up on my limiteds, but I want to be able to, like, the collection thing is it's easier from a limited perspective. Like the price to get a collection is lower. It's not necessarily low, particularly if you're going to collect PSG limiteds, like that's not going to be cheap. But I actually find myself more interested in limiteds because of collection than I am actual gameplay, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. I think as well, like when it comes to limiteds, having more again, like so long as you can, like, you're not like putting your finances at jeopardy. If you're going home and telling your wife we're remortgaging the house because I need to go and buy like 30 limited collections, then you're definitely doing it wrong, right? But like if you've got 3 or 4 collections, you get to play matchups every week. You get to fill in the gaps of all the cap modes every week. And then if you have a positive example of a transfer or a guy breaking through that you paid £1 for that's now worth £10, like the volatility of the limited market is so wild that even when owning collections, trading in and out of those players will just give you more than in rares anyway, because as you say, like the expense just to buy that rare collection is quite large.
Yeah.
But because the volatility is so high, like it's sometimes like 100% on a card in an hour. And it's like, wow, he was worth £2. Now he's worth £5.50. Like, just sell him. Like, and then go and buy 3 other guys for £1.80 to start your next collection. And there will become a time where either you don't need that guy that you sold for £5 for those points to get you to the 750, or if you still do, once that game week that he was the guy for disappears, he goes back to £2. You just buy him back again. And there you go. Like now you've built like that. That's how, again, in my head, I really want proof of concept of this for myself, because if it does work, I will like commit to it at a rare and maybe even a couple of super rare team level as well. The paranoia that I have is that, remember when everybody said like the greatest way to make like to safeguard yourself on so rare is to just buy the backup goalkeepers, right? And then the price of all goalkeepers just nosedived. And all of a sudden, it's like if you invested in hundreds of backup goalkeepers, you now need to sell them just to break even on that method. And it's like it's the same thing with this. It's like you could like fully engage in this, and then Sorare could make a change in 6 months or 9 months that completely negates everything you were working towards. And I think that answers the question of how do you know when a strategy isn't working. It's when there's like a seismic change on the site that causes a massive shift in how people are playing. That's when you kind of, I guess, need to like re-strategize for going forwards. And I always miss the boat on other strategies because I was either too late or too stubborn or too stupid. On this one, I'm like, yeah, I want in on this one. I think it's going to go really, really well. If it does, amazing. And if it doesn't, cost isn't, it's not to the point where I'm going to be like looking at a level limited going from £2,600 to like £26. It's going to be like £180 team that now is only worth like £110. Like, it's a lot easier pill to swallow.
Do you think you would have done all of this if the only benefit was coins? Like, I asked that because when it first came out, like, they wanted to make collecting more of a thing. And my initial negative response to having it affect regular SO5 is that it was unnecessary because they could just do coins. And they told us, at some point coins will be more, people will want coins more than card rewards, which we're not remotely close to yet. But the other side of me was like, if it was just for coins, I don't think people would do it. Like, I don't think anybody would care. But now that you've been collecting, do you care?
Like only because of the symbiotic relationship with winning cards, right? So like, if for example they introduced a tournament, I'm trying to think of like something where, or let's say they gave you like the ability to buy a collection bonus. So 10,000 coins, you can buy 1% collection bonus. You still cap at that 5%, but it's there. Then it'd be like, yeah, do you know what? I care about coins now because I want to buy the SO5 benefit. I think the way that they could introduce, and again, it would have to go hand in hand for me with SO5, but I think they could do a good job of introducing tournaments that don't offer coins, that don't offer cash rewards, but offer exclusive collectibles, genuine collectibles. Like, the first game week of the season, have who's like an official partner, Liverpool are an official partner with them, right? So have a special like tournament where anyone, you can enter any Premier League cards, and first place is like a jersey mint, or like not necessarily a jersey mint because I think they're going to auction those off, but some kind of like special card that gives a massive boost to collection bonus. Because then I'm entering into that tournament. Because if I win that card, either it benefits me massively in the collection, or I get to sell it. Even though there's no other rewards on offer, that is something I would want to win, and especially if it's for the team that I support. Like, they could run tournaments like this very easily. Instead of a star that has, I don't know, whatever, a value of like what's like let's say the top MLS star right now is maybe like $100 for like Sorare or something like that.
Sounds about right.
Wouldn't it be better if instead of that they gave a full collection or an 11-man team of tier 3s and 4s that you win instead? And it's like, it has the same overall value, but it's something that's very cool to win opposed to just one guy.
I love it. It is kind of I don't think we're remotely close to the idea that a lot of people have of being able to like choose your rewards. That was one of the things when they first started talking about the progression bar. It was like, you get a certain number of points, and then you can either get, it was a tier 3 at the time, like a tier 5 reward, or you don't, and you just like keep going. And it would be kind of interesting to be like, all right, do you want a tier 1, or do you want 10 tier 5s from that team for your collection? And yeah, I wonder how many people would take the collection.
Yes, it is interesting. Because if you know the club, like 10 tier 5s from Arsenal right now, I would take in a heartbeat, because it's all the youth players or the fringe players that might get moved somewhere else. So the upside is massive. But then on the flip side, taking like Saka, you could just sell him and then go and buy what you want. So that would be really interesting. That would be really interesting.
So when you get to your next when you complete your AWA, what considerations go into the next stack that or collection that you want to get? Because I feel like there are some people who will look at it and say, you know, who's the best scoring team? I'll get those 5 and then I'll build the collection. Or do you look at like how much does it cost for me to get to 750? And should I just take the cheapest one that gets to 5% so that I'll just play whatever?
But you asked me right at the top of the show why those 3, and I only answered for Jean-Book because it was the academy winning the academy. I went for the Reds because they only sell in bundles, and they go overlooked a little bit for jersey mints and one-offs. And it's just a lot easier to get 5 players straight away than it is to get 1 player at a time. And they are just very good in their league. Then I went for the Timbers because I think that they are better than they are playing. You know, Evander hasn't really got going yet. Moreno is brilliant. And I think once they get going, especially on an offensive level, now that Mora is coming back from a long-term injury, I think they've got genuine potential, which is why I kind of went for them, because I felt like they were a bit underappreciated and could go. And the next one that I go for, the things I was kind of looking at was what teams dominate a division in a specific area. So, you know, you look at Houston at home and they're just incredible. Now, they don't really have a good forward. So then I started thinking, would I then also go for a team that like go for 2 collections, one for defensive, one for offensive? And then I started looking at like the Asian leagues, and I really like the K League because of the jeopardy around the scoring. It has those players underpriced. But there are a couple of really good K League teams out there that have great options defensively and offensively. And that's probably what I'll go for next, is like probably another Korean team.
Would you at all consider a previous seasoned cards?
No, because they've lost too many of them, transferred out, and have got too many players. Just typically, especially in that league where it's like transfers happen all the time for like their big guys that go to Europe and stuff. It's like if you try and take even last season Midtjylland collection, I would wager a guess that like half of the team don't play there anymore. Mm-hmm. And that means like, you know, somebody asked about Rice earlier. Yeah, literally Evander, yeah. And it like Rice is going to be an interesting one for Arsenal. Maybe Havertz as well, if they both start. And potentially Timber, but I don't think he's going to be like a first choice for Arsenal for the first season at least. But Rice and Havertz are probably going to walk straight into the team over Xhaka and Thomas Partey. And I'm not going to have those in a collection on 5%. So what's the resolution? And that's the issue that you have with buying last season's cards, is that's happened on a lot of players. And then it's like, okay, do I then buy those 2 new season cards, try and get some of the misfits to get them up to like 2 or 3%? Do I go in and buy the whole thing? Or do I now use like Arsenal in a different way than what I was going to use them in, and like kind of play them in 270 with, like, you know, maybe like on favorable home matchups, put like Ramsdale, Saliba, and someone else in, and then 2 others from a different place. And I understand, like, if you have just one collection, you don't have that benefit. If a transfer comes in, you still got to stick with who you've got. But this is where, again, what I do like is that when Rice comes in and when Havertz comes in, Partey and Xhaka go out, which means they still have value. They might not have synergy with the game weeks every game week. They might, which you get a massive benefit from. And you might even get a bigger benefit from. Like if Xhaka goes to Leverkusen and becomes their set piece taker, that's amazing. Like if Partey goes to Juventus and becomes their defensive midfield destroyer, that's amazing. Now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you've got everyone in the same collection playing for different teams as a benefit. But if it goes against, like, if they go somewhere and start slaying and their price goes up, you can then sell them and start working on the next thing.
Yep.
Or you could just go and buy like Rice and Havertz and just appreciate the fact that you're not going to have the collection bonus on them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's funny because it seemed like you were then, not that you were actually considering Well, I guess there was no point where you were buying like the West Ham rice to play in your Arsenal stack, or was there?
I think it's different. Like, not that I'm wailing. I'm not like Sean, where it's just like just buy everyone. But limited level, I can.
Yeah.
I can afford to just. I could afford to just go and buy the whole West Ham stack. Um, I think when we're talking about people that are watching this show that don't have the capabilities to just go and 5% up another team just to get one guy up there, I think you've got to weigh that into your decision of who you buy and why as a collection in the first place, because you were going to have these anomaly players that are in and out that are going to screw you some way or another. Yeah, for me, I don't know if I would. What I would rather do is buy the new Arsenal season and then have two Arsenal seasons. And at rare level, it's a lot easier to be like, I'm just going to play rare pro and go and get Declan Rice super rare instead, and that kind of like mitigates that problem. But limited level, we talked about before, the end game is to like effectively like profit off of so rare. Like there's a lot of different things in the end game, but one of the things is to actually like be cost effective, like actually make profit off of these teams. And if I'm using the rewards of the current Arsenal collection to buy the West Ham collection to get Declan Rice to 5%, that starts to make a bit more sense. But it is again one of those things where it just takes so long, because even though these game weeks come around so fast, they also take so long. And when like this game week has died for me because Dennis Bouanga has decided that he doesn't want to score goals anymore, and Portland Timbers had some rain, and that was a problem apparently. And so it's like I now have to wait until Friday before my next game week comes in, and then on Friday I have no games, and it's like, damn, it's only Wednesday. What am I going to do until Saturday? So even though they come around fast, it takes so long. And so the idea of like, yeah, I just win loads of rewards and then use those rewards to like get the things that I want, it's just not going to happen in any reasonable time.
So the only benefit is if you absolutely smash something and you decide to sell that card, that allows you to get much further than not
Yeah.
like it's not like you're winning something, you're not winning a tier 3 in order to sell it to buy a different tier 3. If you can win like a star, and then if you don't want that star, you sell that, and then that you can buy a ton of collection cards from that.
Yeah, 100%. And you and Sean talked a long time ago. I want to say maybe even a year or more ago about. I think the podcast was called "Everyone You Can't Win All the Time," or "Everyone Can't Win All the Time," something like that. And you talked about like critical mass within So Rare and how once it reaches that, it's effectively a race to the bottom, and everybody is going to lose. Like the site crashes, and it kind of gives like pyramid scheme vibes. I would like to hope that So Rare would have evolved a product when it reaches that point that it wouldn't be. But I think from a personal perspective, you can hit critical mass as well. And that could be one team, 100 cards, 10 teams, whatever it may be. And that's where I think it's like, if you've got like 10 collections and some guy leaves or some guy comes, you can still use those guys to win and sell off everything you get to either buy what you need or to just know that you just don't need that piece in any lineup because you've got 10 teams. And I think that's where I'm trying to like get with in my head around 10 or 15 limited collections is like, I will have this core group of teams. I will probably get rid of everything else at limited level if somebody wants to buy these like 10 cents cards off of me. And everything that I win from these other collections will just get either stored, like all the cards will get sold, but the ETH will either get stored or withdrawn. You all know it's probably not going to get withdrawn, so it's going to get stored. And then when like one of the pieces of the puzzle really falls apart, like let's say I don't know, I buy Benfica 2023 collection, and then this time next season, like half their team gets sold. It'll be like, okay, let me just sell this entire collection, get rid of it all, and bring in somebody else instead.
Yeah, that's fair. That's right. Do you think that there's a, you kind of pushed it back right away, but do you think that there is kind of not an advantage, but it seems like most people are not going to start collections from prior seasons. And you kind of mentioned it because like not all the players are still there, but there are clubs that like fundamental, like the maybe the goalkeeper, a center back. I mean, you really only need five that still play that to get like past season's cards. Like there's clearly a premium on current season cards. So is it actually cheaper if you're like, actually, I'm going to go after Atletico Madrid 2021 limited cards because nobody wants those anymore? Do you think
Yeah.
that there's any sort of at least a price advantage on that?
Oh, I think there's a massive advantage there in terms of everything. It's just about like research, right? And this is when
Yeah.
I tweeted out about Sorare, one of the biggest concerns for people is how much time it takes on anything. But if you could find a team that still has a core group of players there, and specifically including the goalkeeper, and then they also have a whole bunch of players filtered throughout maybe Europe and Americas that are also playing and doing well. Buying an old season card in the first place, you're going to be real high on like the level bonus. So
Hmm.
the season bonus isn't going to be so valuable. And then having all of those players on 5% XP, it gives you utility in multiple places. So yeah, if you could find that team that you could stack anyway as a five, and then have like two other players that can go into America's region, and one player that could go into Champ Europe region, and then a whole bunch of guys for like Cap 240 that are just fringe players elsewhere. That would be brilliant. Yeah, you get maximum utility out of the players.
Yeah.
It's just finding that team, and then again trying to like build that team without somebody else recognizing that that team is also good. Because at that point, then that's tough. Like it's a nightmare, even at limited level with how many cards there are. If you're two, even just two guys, as you say, it takes two guys, and all of a sudden it's like you list up a guy for $20, and he's real integral to your team, and somebody else buys him, and somebody else has him that sees that. He's not going to sell him for like $20, 50 cents. He now wants like $100 for
Yeah.
that card, because he's sold for that, and I know you want him, so I can get at least 10x this. Like that's it. Like,
Johannes was saying you can't get to 5% if you go for past seasons, but you definitely can. Like you just need jersey mints and one-ofs, and probably not even that many of them.
I think you
But it's
can
definitely
anyway. You
harder.
just need to wait the 90 days, right? Like, and again, if you just factor that into your strategy, I don't think
Mhm.
that's a problem, because I think having 3 or 4% isn't isn't terrible. It just means that you're not going to win until you also get that 5%. I talked about Channy's Liverpool collection and how he's not going to be able to compete with You'll Never Walk Alone, but he actually will be able to compete with him. It's just going to take 2 years. Once the season bonuses are gone and they're both on level 20 with 5% collection bonus, then who wins? It's whoever put the team into the tournament first, if they're playing in the same tournament, right? Which I think is probably a stupid way for Sorare to do it, but if that's the only way they can differentiate, then fair enough. Um, and then the other thing I was thinking about that I talked about on stream, that I'd be interested to hear your point on, which has nothing to do with limiteds per se, but is the season bonus. Do you think the season bonus should be a 365-day bonus from the mint of the card, rather than from the mint of like everybody losing it at the start of the mint of that first card? Because those Sorares is what kind of gave me this like thought process. Is like they don't, like, people are paying a premium for these cards, collection bonus, and they lose 5% in like 6 weeks. And it's really unfair for Sorare to kind of like put them on auction. If they gave one for rewards, that would be fair. And then for these guys to pay this massive fee for these guys and then get hit straight away in a few weeks. It's like, if when you buy that card, or when that card gets minted, there's 365 days on the season bonus. I think that's I think that I think it like kind of like papers an issue where first season cards, because of season bonus, and third season cards because of level 20, have so much value But second season, like the second season of a card, is just killed because you can't get them to level 20 and you don't have the season bonus. So there's zero incentive to actually collect the cards. Right. So if Sorare want to push this narrative of holding cards and collecting cards and effectively like dry up the market with list or play and things like that, surely giving someone a reason to not buy a Saka now and sell it in 2 weeks to try and buy the season card makes more sense.
But aren't you buying cards right now?
That's because I'm trying to take advantage of the system the way it is. I would be less. I would have been a lot more careful with how I bought cards and when I bought cards if I knew I had 365 days season bonus, because I wouldn't be trying to rush to get that 5% collection bonus and that XP boost as quick as possible.
So it's 365 days from the mint date, basically.
From the mint date, yeah.
Yeah, I love
Which
it.
I think is fair for every card then, right? Because honestly, if you have a counterpoint, I'm genuinely willing to hear it. But if you buy Bukayo Saka number 10 or number 50 or number 70, you get an entire season of season bonus with him. If I buy Bukayo Saka 1000, Sorare themselves are like devaluing that card by saying you literally get no, like, because the season's over now, you get zero benefit of this bonus.
No, I think it makes complete sense. I also would love it if we got rid of the extra season for teams that are no longer minted.
And like, I think that would also.
I think what yours is a solution for that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because after the 365 days, those Zenit players can't just sit there farming humongous levels of XP what nobody can compete with, or that nobody could have competed with until now collection bonus comes in and offers a little bit more. But
I think it makes total sense. As simple as that. Yes.
So if you're listening, Sorare.
Yeah, Dan. Or Carl, whoever's in charge of that one. I think one of the biggest negative feelings that people get, and it's actually kind of the same thing, but one is winning a U23 reward when they've exhausted their U23 eligibility. So people who won like Donnarumma in May, like he won't have anymore. And the other, although he ended up having it because of the Nations League, but the other is winning like one of the last cards that they mint of a season. And you're like, oh, I just won this card. And like the next day it loses 5%. So I think your solution takes out a negative feeling without like detrimental game effects.
Yeah. And I think as Josh says in the chat there as well, and a few people motioned to it, it would lessen the peaks at the start of the new season, which although Sorare might enjoy, I don't think it's good to see a card up here, then down, then down, then at its point. I personally think it's bad for it. And if the only benefit was the one-off and the jersey mint, and then a stable market, I think that's better for everyone.
Mike said the problem is that you can have a case of a 2022 season bonus stretching into 2024, which I feel like that doesn't make sense if we use 365 days. But
yeah,
season bonus should end when a season does. Then that is then clear and everyone knows the rest. The thing is that they don't actually end with the season though. They end with like just whenever the new cards come out. Like we don't know.
That's maybe what he's getting at, right? Is like you can get a 2022 Arsenal card 2 weeks into the start of the Premier League 2023 season, which means you'll have that 5% season bonus 2 weeks into the start of the 2024 bonus. But I still think that's a net positive for everyone, because everyone knows the risk of buying later, but there should be no risk of buying later. If everybody just gets 365 days, it's a fair playing field. Everybody has the same rules.
Yeah, like it does feel a little detrimental, I guess, maybe is the word, that card 14 of 100 has so much better utility than 41 of 100 than 81 of 100 just because of when they were minted. Yeah, I don't know.
But so Ben Johnson says, why am I getting a 22-23 bonus for the 23-24 season? And if if that is a mentality, then there should be no as well 1 year extension of cards that don't get minted. You shouldn't get 2 seasons.
I think it's just a branding thing now. Just don't call it a season bonus.
Yeah, that would be ideal, right?
Because we know it's not a season bonus, because they don't end as soon as the new season starts. They end whenever the new cards come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, KB97.
Yeah, they should just call it a mint bonus instead.
The 1 year bonus? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Freshly minted bonus, even.
Yeah, there you go.
Said. That sounds fun. Yeah, I'm in. I'm just trying to check to see which of my cards we get a boost of it, and if it's detrimental to me, then I'm actually going to be against it. So hold on.
But I mean, I'm sure you've picked up enough cards, even like winning cards. Like somebody said there, what did they say? It's Quinny won a card and didn't even get to register it for a competition before it lost season bonus, and it's like that's like they already have a lot of issues with the rewards. But yeah, like that just is a negative experience for a whole bunch of people on the site, and especially when we're talking about limited cards. And we're talking about the biggest pool of managers and the biggest kind of like pool of word of mouth. Because I feel like if you're playing at rare or above level, you're already so committed to so rare that even if you don't like it, you're still going to talk about it in a positive way. Even if you've got like issues with certain areas, but it always comes down to like that casual experience. And if you as a limited user win a card, and then tomorrow he gets 5% less points, and you're talking about that with another guy who's like, "Oh, how was your experience?" You're gonna be like, "No, it was terrible." Like, I just immediately lost interest because of these things. And I think as much as people have manipulated the system to their favor with the Zenit cards, with the Liverpool cards from a couple of years ago at rare level and stuff, like putting everyone on a level playing field, everyone having the same ability as everybody else should be what it's about. And obviously, everyone can get the collection bonus. But everyone can't get the first mint. Only one person can get the first mint.
Yeah.
And so this is a great way of like, just removing that kind of like, that I don't like, that really.
That, yeah.
I didn't have the word for it, but yeah. You all know what I mean.
I'm going to end us there because it's just time. So thank you everybody for joining.
Really quick. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, no, not at all. This is what happens. And frankly, what is this? 83 minutes is quite short for you. So I understand.
It kind of is, yeah.
But thank you to everybody for joining. If you guys could please, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, watch all the videos, tell all your friends to watch them as well, or just leave them on the background. It's always really helpful. I'll be back tomorrow with Sorare Andrews, and then Friday might be a slight change. We'll see. But there will be a show. I guarantee a show. Don't worry. For everyone who is like, you took yesterday off, like, don't worry. There will be a show.
How dare you?
Nep, thank you so much for joining me today. And
You're welcome.
Good luck on that Reds collection.